Hey guys, Lighten here, and I love horror films. Now, when I was a kid, I watched Freddy Krueger, and oh my god, it just scared the bejesus out of me. I could not sleep for forever, and it didn't help that my sister would make fun of me and say, like, Freddy's coming to get you, and stuff like that, which made me even less likely to sleep, and traumatized. But when I overcame that fear, I could watch horror movies all the time, and since then, I've learnt to love them. Now, a horror movie is getting a remake this year. In fact, it comes out tomorrow in Australia as of this upload. And what movie is that, you ask? It's Stephen King's It. And I'm going to be looking at the original TV miniseries to see if it's worth it. For those of you who don't know, Stephen King is a famous writer that mostly deals with horror and suspense novels, and for some reason Hollywood wants to make every one of his books into a movie one day. Stephen King's It is one such movie, and because this is an adaptation from a book, many things will be different, and I've never read the book so I can't judge it based on that, so I'm just going to be going just what I see in the film. Released in 1990, It tells two stories over the course of the movie, a story about the main characters as kids, and then the second story when they are adults, and I will cover them separately. In the city of Derry, Maine, where like every Stephen King story is set, by the way, we have a ragtag group of kids that are mostly outsiders. Strange kids, fat kids, the social outcasts, you know, pretty much all the cool kids that most movies like to call losers. For various reasons, they all become best friends and everyone is happy, right? Except they aren't. A kid named Georgie, who is the little brother of Bill, is playing boats in the rain when it goes down the drain, where a friendly clown picks it up. That's nice. This is Pennywise the clown, and he acts friendly, but only does so to lure kids in as prey to eat them or something else. The other kids start seeing this clown around, and strange things start happening to them. The clown is terrorizing them because fear makes kids taste that much better. None of the grown-ups believe the children as they can't see the clown or any of the mischief that he comes up with. So they decide to put a stop to it themselves by sticking together, as there seems to be a force protecting the group when they are together. They also make some silver rounds for a slingshot which will be used to kill the clown for good. Well, it isn't for good, that's for sure, because 30 years pass by and these kids are all adults now when they get a call from Mike, one of the group that stayed behind in Maine and became a librarian. He simply tells them that it has come back. This prompts them all to travel back to Maine and try and deal with it once and for all. Well, that's the main plot for the adults, coming back and having to deal with the many crazy things that Pennywise has to throw at them, as well as remember all the things that they did as kids. Will they kill it? Will it kill them? Whatever floats your boat, and just remember that down here, they all float. It is essentially two films in one, because this was a TV film series, mini-series of sorts. So it's like pretty much what Sherlock is nowadays, actually, but this was, 20 years before Sherlock happened. So it's going to be two films pretty much. It's mostly one film based on the kids and then one film based on the adults, and there's just double the cast. There's too many people to talk about, so I'm only going to point out a few of them here. 12-year-old Bill is played by Jonathan Brandis, and I will forever know him as Bastian Balthazar Bucks because I watched Neverending Story 2 way too many times to count. He's also in Sequest, if you remember that show as well. He is the leader of the group, the one that keeps them all together and keeps them focused on the task at hand. If it wasn't for him, all of the kids would either have been killed or taken away, or they just would have given up. He is the core driving force as is, and he's fairly well acted. I like this child actor quite a lot. 12-year-old Richie is played by Seth Green, who you might recognize because he played Oz on the show Buffy, and he also made his own TV show called Robot Chicken with one of his friends. So you've probably seen this guy around or heard him as well because he does the voice of Chris in Family Guy. You've probably seen or heard his geeky face somewhere. He plays the jokester of the group, and as a kid he makes a lot of jokes and he's like trying to be the life of the party and all that kind of stuff, but I find that a lot of his stuff just kind of falls flat. It's not very entertaining for me, and I think he's one of the weaker kids of the group, probably the second weakest of the entire group, but yeah, he turned out okay in the end when he's an adult and he became a better actor. The last kid I'm going to talk about is Bev, played by Emily Perkins. She is not known for a whole bunch of stuff, but she was in this movie series called Ginger Snaps, which I've seen quite a few times because my sister loved it, so that's the only reason why I know who she is. Anyways, she's the only girl of the group, and I like that she isn't a weak girl. There's lots of situations and a lot of things that happen to her that put her in a weak position, but she doesn't come off as a weak character. She's fairly strong. She's got a good sense of morality. She's got an inner strength as well. It's not just like beating up people kind of strength, because of all the shiz that she has to go through, and you watch her go through that and you're like, man, I just want to help her. But she proves that she can help herself a lot of the time, and she is a core member of the group, being the one that actually tries to take down Pennywise in the end. So she's probably one of the strongest characters of the group, and I like that she's better written than most of the other people here. Adult Ben is played by John Ritter, who you might recognize as well. He's been around a lot of different movies and TV shows and all that kind of stuff, so there's a good chance you've seen him somewhere. Like Bad Santa, I think 8 Reasons Why was a TV show he was in. Anyways, he's probably one of the weakest of all the adults. I just find him not very strong, not very well written, and he doesn't seem to do as much as the other adults. Like, they have a much more defining moment or characteristic as they're going through. There are points in the movie where he does show character, and he does have the strength to grow, but it's the least out of everyone. So that kind of sucks, but yeah, he's still in there. Adult Bev is played by Annette O'Toole, whom you might recognize as well from Superman 3 because she played Lana Lang. And then to keep with the Superman theme, she plays Martha Kent in the TV show Smallville. There you go. Some fun facts. She's really into Superman, I guess. Once again, she is a strong character. As an adult version of the Bev that was a strong character, but as an adult, she's much weaker. The start of her character shows her in an abusive relationship, very reminiscent of what she was with her father, like, abusive and all that kind of stuff, which is bad. And it just undermines a lot of the character development that she did have as a kid. She just doesn't feel as strong as or empowered as she does when she was a kid, which is a shame. I would have thought that she would have broken out of these tropes and these mindsets and gone to a better life, and it sucks that she didn't. But then over the course of the film, she does get a little bit more sassy and stronger and stuff, but I never found her to be quite as strong or as well written as the child version. The last main character is Pennywise the Clown, aka It, and he is played by the amazing Tim Curry. I'm not gonna lie, Tim Curry is one of my favorite actors of all time. I just love everything that he does and that he is in, and oh my god, I just love it. The way that his voice comes out and his mannerisms and all the stuff that he's done, I just love it. You might recognize him from such things as Rocky Horror Picture Show. He was also voices in plenty of different TV shows and movies. He's been in like so many things just because he's so unique. And here he plays Pennywise, and once again he just does an amazing job. He's got both sides of Pennywise down to a T. The kind of nice side where he's trying to lure in the kids by being a clown, and he's like, haha, I'm a jokester and a trickster. And then he's got the other side, which is the malevolent side, where he just goes and cracks and he turns evil and he's like, I'm gonna kill you and eat you and all that kind of stuff. And the transitions between the two are so well done. I think he is a brilliant It, and I'm gonna watch the new movie with this guy in mind, and it's probably gonna dampen my view of the new movie, to be honest, because I love his portrayal of this character so well done. The plot of both films is actually fairly well paced. Now, the movie starts off with the adults learning that It has come back and then having flashbacks as to their characters and how they discovered It or got scared by him for the very first time. As the first part moves on, it also shows them coming together, learning a little bit about the monster and eventually going to slay it. And I say the first part of this film is so well done. All the characters are fairly strong and fairly likable, with each of them having their own unique quirk and actual point to the story. It isn't just 7 people just for the sake of 7 people. Everyone does something for the group at each point in time. Then the adult plot is over the place because the adults don't remember everything that happened to them as kids because of some weird magical effect from Pennywise or something. It's very vague, so they don't know everything that happened to them, and then they have constant flashbacks, and it breaks up the flow of the second part. The worst part is that they have flashbacks to things that happened in the first part, which if you're watching both parts back to back, it's just annoying because you just saw that like an hour ago. So it's really redundant to see a flashback to something that we've already seen. The other thing that slows down the second half of the movie is because of those flashbacks, they have to dish out new information that the kids went through in order to overcome their fear of Pennywise, and they could have just shown that in the first part and then have these adults be stronger for it, or at least have the flashbacks to be a little bit more interesting, because most of them are pretty crummy, to be honest. But when you combine both stories into one, there's a definite emphasis on the first part over the second, where you can see that the quicker pace and the actual story progression of the first part matches a lot what happens in the second part. It's just a little bit more interesting. The fact that Pennywise seems like more of a threat when they're kids, but he's an actual more of a threat when they're adults, is a bit weird, because I feel like the kids are more threatened than the adults, even though I know that they all survive because you see them as adults. So when they are adults and the threat is real, I don't feel that they are as scared. I like that level of fear throughout both parts though, don't get me wrong. I think that the fear really adds a lot to the story because then you get to feel for the characters. It's just that in the second part there are some great moments of fear, but they're fewer and far between, and they just feel a little bit more silly. When I was doing research into this film, even the director said that the second half is not nearly as good as the first, mostly because what they had in mind couldn't be in the budget, because they had this idea that they wanted to do like a more psychological fight with Pennywise, which is like in the books, but in the movie they couldn't do that. So the final act of the film just feels like a big letdown, and I'll talk about a little bit more of that in the spoiler section. The other thing, like I said, is that Pennywise just feels more like an asshole in the second part. It's really hard to describe because unless you watch it, you don't really get the full effect. In the first part, he was turning into monsters and he was like trying to be intimidating, but there were jokes and there were funny moments where Pennywise was being just really strange, but those were undercut, but those were emphasized when he just switches to that evil persona as well, and the kids just all narrowly escape. In fact, one of the kids, I don't even know how they escaped, but that's also for a future part of this episode. But then in the second part, he's not nearly as threatening. Like in the scene where Richie gets to the library, he's just standing on the balcony being an asshole. He's summoning balloons that pop and, you know, spray blood on everybody, but of course no one else can see it because they're adults. Only kids have the imagination to see it. But except for the main characters who have already seen it. So I guess they're immune to it. There's some weird plot holes to this. But anyways, no one else can see what's going on or can hear this clown, and he's being an absolute dick. Like, I swear to God, it looks like he just came onto set one day and he was just being an asshole because why not? And he's got this like thing that spins and makes lots of noise and he's going, aha, aha. It's so dumb and it's so hilarious at the same time. It really doesn't make it look threatening. It just makes it look goofy. And I like that at times, but it needs to have a more threatening part to it, you know, afterwards, like a time where Pennywise feels like a threat. But in the second half, it never gets to that point. There's a few times where he does look and act threatening, but they are not nearly as frequent as the first, and I think that's why the second part really suffers. Like, there's one moment in the second part which has Richie making out with Bev, and she mentions the poem that he wrote to her as a kid. That's fine, but then as he's making out with her, he sees in the mirror that she has the clown outfit on, and then he pushes her away and it's Pennywise, and he's like, oh, and he pushes her away further, and she sort of just disappears and stuff. It's really silly, and he's got like some clown makeup on him and everything, and like, what was that about? Why was Pennywise making out with Ben? I don't get it. Why not kill him there and then? If he had him in solitude, he had a perfect opportunity. He could have like scraped his back with his long talon claws or bit his neck open with his crazy teeth or something. Nah, just make out with him a little and see ya. I guess Pennywise is just feeling a little lonely living in the sewer for countless millennia. Poor Pennywise. But it's scenes like that really make the second half just dumb. So Pennywise being non-threatening, and then the people having to remember all the stuff that happened to them in the past, the second part just feels a lot slower. There's more exposition about what it is or what might have happened to it. There's more exposition of people's lives, what they happened to them after they left Maine and went on to do their careers and stuff. There's more of a talk about why they might have survived, or why Mike is the only one that remembers and all that kind of stuff, and it just feels kind of boring. Whether they're talking to each other and they're just talking and rehashing things that we've already seen, sometimes it's actually good. I like when Mike and Bill are hanging out and they're like, you know, going on the bike rides and they're just having fun because they're catching up as old friends. That's really good. The first part of the dinner scene is also really good, where they're all chatting and having fun and just catching up like a group of friends, and it does show that they are still a strong group of friends, and I like that. And then it's undercut because soon after that, when they're in the library and they're talking and there's just exposition and everyone doesn't want to do it, and then after that the next scene in the hotel is the same thing, and then the next scene in the hospital is the same thing. It just gets repetitive and boring. That's not to say the first part isn't without its faults as well. Pennywise not being able to kill these kids does suck, because it takes away a lot of the tension that would have been there. While they are more scared and they are more threatened by Pennywise, you also know that they can't die, so that does suck a little. Now onto a few little plot things that just, you know, I have to bring up because I'm always thinking about the plot. Pennywise is this ancient being that has been living in Derry for who knows how long. We find out that he's been there at least 200 years, probably more. And every time people have come to this town, every 30 years he wakes up, he feeds, he then goes back to sleep, 30 years repeats. And he's sort of infected this town, so people just forget about it. They forget about these murders. They chalk it up to normal things, like maybe it's just a serial killer, maybe these kids just ran away from home and stuff like that. As an outsider, you look at it and you go, that's pretty dumb. But I do like the fact that the whole town has been put under this curse, and even the kids were a part of it until Georgie dies and they discover that it is real, and they start finding each other and standing up to him. So I like that, and that's all cool, and it's a bit weird, and it's just used to explain plot convenience, why no one else can see or do anything to Pennywise. But there are a few things that make me go, So Pennywise wakes up every 30 years and he kills kids most of the time. And he kills kids because they have this greater sense of imagination. So they can see him and they can see the things that he's doing to them. He can break into their minds and find their biggest fears and then exploit that. By exploiting these fears, he can make them afraid. And as he says later on, fear makes the meat taste better. So that makes me understand why he had to scare them before killing them, but there are some kids, the first two kids of the film, he doesn't really scare, he just takes advantage of them. The very first death in the film is in the future, it's in the present, I should say, and it's just him running up to a girl and eating her. That's it, there's no big terrifying thing, there's no psychological thing behind it. I think the beginning of the film shouldn't have shown the monster, shouldn't have shown Pennywise. They should have just left it ambiguous, even though you know he is back. Anyways, that's beside the point. The way that Georgie dies, there's no fear until he gets caught. He sees it in the drain and he's like doing his whole speech about, you know, there's amusement park rides and all that kind of stuff, and he has the boat and something about everybody floating. And then he just rips off Georgie's arm. He doesn't actually eat Georgie. You find out that he just ripped off his arm and Georgie died, I guess, from blood loss and stuff, which is actually pretty freaking horrific if you think about it. A little kid, like being 6 years old, having your arm ripped off and dying from blood loss. That's messed up. Man, Stephen King. Man. So I guess he eats the arm, and he does eat other characters, and he does kill adults, and whenever he does show himself to adults, he has to, I guess, physically show himself as a force, otherwise they can't see him. But then why doesn't he kill the Lucky Seven, the Losers Club, the main characters? There are a few scenes in this film that I'm just like, why? Why didn't they die? There's a scene where, what's his name? The kid with the asthma. He's not Bill, he's not Ben. Anyways, the kid with the asthma he's in a school shower, and Pennywise shows up. And it's pretty crazy. It's one of the cooler scenes as well, like all the pipes are coming out and Pennywise comes out of the drain, and it's frightening. And he's just in the corner, scared. And then it sort of fades away to the next scene. I'm like, wait a minute, how did he get out of that? There is no way that he would have survived that. If Pennywise is literally that far away from him, he could have just walked over and said nom 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 and bye bye. Insert name there. Damn it, I don't remember his name. And that's really strange. Like, why did they do that? Why not show him running away or something like that? They just don't have any conclusion to that. And I was like, no idea why he survived. Also, some of the kids that he torments, he does literally torment them, like Bev with the voices in the sink and then the blood over the entire bathroom. That's a real torment, and I understand that for fear. But I don't get why when Stan gets confronted by it's a mummy in a strange house. It's probably the weakest manifestation of it in the whole film. It comes down the stairs and it's a mummy and it's going to kill Stan, and he holds out a bird book and just repeats some birds, and that sends it away, and it gives him enough power to get out of the door. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. So there's just quite a few times that it could have killed them, should have killed them, would have killed them, but doesn't. And that's freaking annoying. I looked up later and I read some forums and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of fan theories out there as to why he doesn't actually kill them. Part of it is the fact that they're a group and they have this power when they are together and stuff like that. And it's got to do with belief. So they believe in certain things and that's what gives them power over it. So Stan believes in his book, so therefore, you know, he believes in being a good scout and he believes being in a good boy. So because of that belief, it drives its power back just enough for him to escape. Or later on when the asthma kid, he fully believes that he has asthma and he needs that puffer, even though the doctors say it's a placebo and he doesn't need it. He fully believes in it. So when he shoots the stuff into its face, it melts him because of belief. The fact that the kids believe in each other and believe in themselves is the reason why they can't get hurt so much. The fact that they believe in the silver and the fact that it will kill it, even though there's no reason why it should. You know, they have not tested it. They haven't tried to stab him with silver before. There's no law that they're looking up like in Supernatural. So really, silver is the only reason why silver does work is the belief. When they're adults as well, they realize that it is more threatening to them before they start to believe in themselves and believe in each other. So belief plays a big part in this film, but I learned all of that outside of the film. When I had to look up the forums and what other people were saying and quotes from the book, I did not get that through the film, which is bad. Now I'm going to talk about some spoilers here for the end of the film, so skip ahead to blah, wherever I put the timestamp right there. Yeah, just skip to that, and that'll be the end of the spoiler section. So yeah. So the two spoilers that I have to give are both endings to both parts. And the first ending for the first part is actually really well done. All the kids go down into the sewer and they're all together, and they're also getting harassed by the other antagonist of the movie, the three bullies, and Henry Bowers being a complete and utter psycho because he's trying to stab a kid. He's supposed to be like 14, these kids are like 12, and he's gonna stab him. It kills one of the adults and then scares the other one to almost death, and Stan almost dies. So Stan has a pretty bad time, honestly, in the end of the film. But they do put up a fight and they do stop it, and it's really exciting. They fight Pennywise and it's a big payoff, and then the actual end of the first part has the flash forward to Stan getting the phone call from Pennywise, who's actually the last person to get the phone call. So his future was actually the only one that was questionable. So you get a phone call to Stan and he's like, yeah, I remember, but he's scared shitless, and then he kills himself because he cannot bear going back to Derry and facing it. Just the memories alone were enough for him to kill himself. And he was gonna start a family, and it's all really sad. My girlfriend, when she saw her, she was like, oh, that's really sad, because he had moved on, he'd become a good person, presumably, he was gonna start a family, and that's it, he's dead. Wow. So it ends on a very big downer, but I quite like the ending of the first part. It finishes off the kid's story well enough, it sets up a little bit of the adult story so you know something more is going to happen, and it just overall feels fairly well done. Now the ending for the second part is a lot worse. First off, there's only 5 of the main characters that get to go down there because once again Stan is dead, Mike gets injured, so there's only 5 of the 7. But they do make up that the 2 bullets that they have represent the 2 other people, which I thought was really neat. They go down there and they do confront Pennywise, but the last time that you get to see him, it's a letdown. He is just a weird, ghostly water image inside of some vines, and that's it. He gives his speech, he threatens them and all that stuff, and they go, we don't believe in you, we're gonna kill you, and he's like, no, you can't, and they're like, yeah, we can. And that's it. That's the last time you see Tim Curry. Tim Curry is not the final bad guy. The actual final fight is with this giant spider-like creature, and that represents what it really is underneath the clown, or at least a manifestation of it that they could understand. So it's maybe not quite like that. It's a little vague, but regardless, it's a giant spider that they are fighting. This thing looks pretty silly, acts pretty silly, and it's just so not threatening. Where you've been Pennywise this entire time and now you turn into a spider that can't even talk, it's just dumb. Where I liked Pennywise's quips and his assholeness throughout the entire film, this is such a letdown because it's just a giant mute beast that doesn't even really pose much of a threat because they do take care of it pretty easily. They go and chase after it, and it just lifts up and shows its deadlights, which has a hypnotic effect on people and makes people want to live in there forever and stuff. It's a bit vague and weird, but okay, it's a form of hypnotism. And 3 of the main characters get caught by it, and then the asthma guy, which I still haven't learned his name, goes up and tries to do the same thing that he did as a kid and shoot the asthma spray in his face, but it doesn't work, and instead he just gets crushed by the beetle. All the while, Bev is trying to shoot it in its heart in the deadlights with the silver. But it does work. She does get a shot in, and it's a little bit exciting, and there's these weird explosions inside of its chest, and it is super dead, right? No. It crawls off again, and the main characters now have to go in after it into its literal home, I guess, and rip out its heart. It's a gruesome scene, but at least it's a little bit more satisfying because they're like ripping something out and it's kind of gross, so that's cool. Then they go back out and they find out that Asthma Kid is now dead because, well, he couldn't survive being crushed and then falling from such a great height. It makes sense, really. And that's sad. Like, damn, man. He died a virgin, too. He tells everybody just before he dies, like, hey, I've never been with a woman. You're like, oh, damn it. That means he's gonna die. Now, while this ending has a character death and has a lot more at stake, it was so much more boring. Oh my god, fighting a giant spider was just so lackluster. It wasn't exciting, it didn't have any of the Pennywise charm to it. They should have fought the clown, and if he manifests into a spider and then manifests back or something like that, that's how it should have gone down. They should not have fought this giant spider when Pennywise was the bad guy for the entire 2 parts. I cannot stress that enough. The fact that this second ending is just so shit ruins a lot of the film. But what do I think of it? Now, this is going to be a little bit different to what I'm used to, because I'm going to say that part 1 is worth it. And I say that because the characters are great, the acting is strong, the kid's story is very, very well done. It has a lot of threat to it and a lot of heart to it at the same time. And I just overall like the story for the first part. Then I'm going to say that part 2 is not worth it. You really don't even have to watch it unless you are really curious to see what happens to the kids when they're adults and see how they finally destroy it. that's all you really need to see for the second part. I'm not going to say that the whole second part is bad. It does have its great moments. It does have a lot of fun times, and like I said, that part where Tim Curry is just an asshole in the library just makes me laugh every time because it's just so over the top. Also, the restaurant scene is it's really creepy and really gross. So that's a cool scene. So there's a lot of cool scenes in the second part. It's just not as good. Like I said, you don't even really have to watch it. The fact that they almost kill Pennywise and that it comes back should be enough. Like, it leaves it open for a sequel. So that's my final verdict. Watch part 1. Only watch part 2 if you really want to. So guys, tell me what you thought about It. Do you think It was good, or you think It was bad? Do you like It in the same way that I did like It? I'm just saying It as many times as I can. Yeah, what did you think? Did you think part 1 was better than part 2, or did you like the whole thing overall? Have you seen the whole thing? Because it goes for like 3 hours, because it's 2 90-minute films. And tell me what you guys think about the new It. Already from the trailer, I'm a little bit skeptical. I don't like the design of Pennywise, but I'll always give everything in cinema the benefit of the doubt until I actually see the film. But as of right now, I'm not a big fan of the costume and stuff. So, we'll see. But anyways, don't forget to cycle and subscribe as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. The last kid I'm going to mention is Bev, played by Emily Perkins. Is it Emily Perkins? Yeah, I got it right. I can read and remember short-term memory. Now to do this take again. And that's it. That's the last time you see Tim Curry. Tim Curry is not the final bad guy. Sneezing is.